Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga.
And I'm Chet. And this is Martin. Welcome, one and all.
And we're saving the planet
one show at a time, apparently.
With the famous, say hello, Graeme Rankine.
Hello, how are you? And
welcome.
Not so famous, but...
Did I butcher your name?
No, you did a great
Graeme
job.
Rankine.
And cheers, we're drinking Sam Pillsbury
Oh, yes,
wine.
we've got some Sam Pillsbury wine, a little
Wild
Child Red, which I believe we're claiming that Sam named after Kinga.
Cheers. And support local.
Cheers.
And it's
That's
a
right.
local vintner that we love, Sam Pillsbury.
So even though we support local, today Graeme is here. We were talking a little bit earlier. Is one of the things that you're recommending is something that's not so local. So kind of give our listeners an idea of what you're thinking.
Well, I've done a couple of long distance walks.
And who are you?
First of all, I'm Graeme Rankine. I'm a retired finance professor from Thunderbird.
Thunderbird?
And
Graduate
Thunderbird
school.
School of Management, which is just an amazing place. I've
Yes.
been out there many times.
You might need to be, you're supposed to be one.
Okay.
Oh,
Kiss
that's
the
much
mic.
better.
So the last time I was here, we were talking about, what would a young person do to invest, some savings,
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
And the idea is, that if you put it into the stock market and leave it there, it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can I here just reiterate the 5 most important ways to invest? And I think I remember you saying bonds.
Just as a summary from the last
Yeah.
year.
yeah, I'd
bonds.
say basically, if you are young, you put all your money in the market,
Okay.
the stock market.
Okay.
Buy an index fund is what we say. And if you're a little more risk averse, you'd put some of it into bonds.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Which are getting an amazing interest rate now. It's
These days,
more than it's been
Okay.
for at least most of my adult life.
Exactly.
So stock market and bonds. Okay.
And honestly, that's what I think about now. If you're
I thought you said gold.
well, I was about to say you could put some in gold, not more than 10%.
Yeah, because it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
high right now. Because I remember, I when I was buying it, I don't know, 5 years ago, it was at 1,300,
Yeah,
1,500. So it's really still pretty high compared to
Yes.
compared to the rest of what's going on.
So you're
it's
saying I'm
now
gonna buy it when it's low.
$2,000 an ounce.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So I probably wouldn't get in at this point. That's
And what's the
pretty-
lowest it has been in the last few years?
less than 1,000, I would guess.
Oh, so it's
Yeah, it's
If you
been
went back-
pretty volatile.
If you went
Okay.
back 10 years,
Yeah.
that'd be. But don't quote me on that. But it's gone up a lot in the last year for sure.
Yes, for
Okay.
sure.
The market's tanked, but gold's done pretty well. And remember, there's a lot of things going into that. The Ukrainian war,
Mhm.
Inflation, and there's lots of.
Shoot, we
Well,
didn't
just even
extract the
supply
gold.
chains,
Yes.
having to use gold in computers and
Yeah,
phones
yes.
and things like that has been affected. So yeah,
Yes.
it's all that.
My dad had gold in his teeth.
Yeah. So. So
Your dad was Flava Flav.
We might have to exhume the body. I'm just kidding.
he's worth a lot more now.
Right? Yeah, no kidding.
So we, that was what that show was about. But
Mhm.
what I thought I'd like to sort of get people interested in, and I think this really applies to just about anybody, and that's a kind of a long distance walk. And I've done 2 now, and I think you.
How
can-
long is long distance?
Well, my first one was last year. I walked Hadrian's Wall.
Where is that?
It's
Dumb it down
it's
for
on
us.
the border of Scotland and England,
Oh wow.
and
How do you spell that?
it's Hadrian, and last year was the 100th anniversary of the building of the wall by the Roman Emperor Hadrian.
Okay.
So it's 1,900 years old. This wall. That you
Exactly.
walked. Okay.
Wow.
So so the basic idea of the wall was to sort of keep those nasty Scots people out. So they thought a wall would do that. It ultimately didn't, but you can do a path that walks right along the wall from
Okay.
either coast, but it goes. I went from Bowness on Solway, and it's 90 miles all the way over to a place called Wallsend, and it literally follows the wall.
Yeah.
So does it have a beautiful view on the other side of the wall?
It's just, you're in the middle of nowhere, pretty much.
Mhm.
It's dotted with, the occasional little village, which is kind of places I stayed
Mhm.
at,
Mhm.
but you're out in the middle of.
So are you looking at oceans? Are you
Oh no,
looking
you're
at,
in countryside.
okay.
So you're going
Really-
from ocean to ocean, basically,
Yes,
or
you're going
bay
from,
to ocean.
and in the middle of the country, it's just hills and
Green, all green,
Green
trees,
and-
flowers.
So basically, English rednecks.
yes, and it rained every day.
Really?
It rained literally
Okay.
every
And
day.
your
And
wife
what
is-
time of year was
I
you
went
there?
in May.
In May. Okay, so May
So-
showers,
Yes, so
all that fun stuff. Okay.
And as you're doing that, your wife is in Paris, enjoying,
no.
kicking back
No,
at
no.
the zoo.
Eating bonbons.
That's right.
Because you said your wife doesn't like to go to these
No,
things.
this is not her kind of thing because I'm kind of doing it a bit primitive.
Mm-hmm.
So some people have a baggage service. They take the
Mhm.
bag from hotel to hotel. I just went
That'd
with a
be me.
little sort of day pack with a change of clothes, and
All right, so 90 miles. How long did it take you?
that was six days.
All right, so
Wow.
that's quite a
booking
bit
it.
of you were
You're booking
boogieing.
Yeah,
Wow.
the longest day was 20 miles.
Okay. And
Actually,
how long did that take you?
Well, that was just one day. The walk was 18 miles. I get
Right.
to the place where I'm staying the night, and they do
Oh, so
breakfast.
you're not in a tent.
No, I'm not in a tent. No.
Okay.
You can
Well,
camp.
but what is he doing? We want our
But, yeah,
listeners to know
yeah,
this.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
some people did that.
Mhm,
So
thank
I
you.
saw people that were
Thanks, Dominic.
camping it. I actually saw 3 special forces guys from the British Army,
Really?
and these were 3 tough guys. They were running it over 3 days.
Oh my god.
Wow.
And
Those are tough
Wow.
guys.
So very tough.
Running it.
And it's,
Wow.
as I say, it's wet, it's slippery,
I'm gonna stay home.
muddy. So that's what they were doing. I don't know whether this was a private effort or part of their training, but very tough guys.
Could you do
Right.
that in 3 days?
That would be tough.
It's
But you could, if you train for it, I think
Yeah.
you could probably do it.
so so I just kind of stayed at different little
So,
places.
so why did you want to do that? I mean, why
That's
did
a
you
good
choose
question.
that?
We
Yes.
talked about that a little
Yeah.
bit earlier, like because you said like in El Camino draws like 200,000 people per year. These other trails draw
Mhm.
people every
Yeah.
single year. So what do you think the draw is, and what is it for
Yeah.
you?
Well, so that's a good point because this really has gotten a lot bigger these days because of that the way of Saint of
Graham, why?
St. James.
Why? I want to know.
Well, just a minute. So it's a 500-mile track,
Mhm.
a walk from the Pyrenees in France all the way across Spain, northern Spain, into Santiago Compostela, and that's reputedly where St. James's bones are buried. So a lot of people do it because it's a religious,
Mhm.
sort of
Trek.
trek.
That's
And they stay at a kind of monasteries and sort of
Mhm.
convents and places like that where you get a bunk bed, you get a communal meal. So really,
so they're up there for confession and praying.
it's a real pilgrimage,
Mhm.
again, and that's been happening for 1,500 years.
Okay.
All right.
So
Okay.
it's as I say, what's supposedly there is the bones of St. James.
Mm.
So
Okay.
one reason to do it is, and many people do it for that reason, is that it's a kind of religious kind of thing.
Mhm.
Other people are doing it. It's a kind of fun, nature, outdoor kind of activity. They're
To meet other people that are
to meet.
interesting.
They're meeting, typically, certainly on that trail, the way of
Mhm.
St. James. I will mention it got very popular
Mhm.
because of a movie called The Way. I think it was Martin Sheen.
you told me.
I think so.
Um,
Yeah. That was such a good movie.
It's a
Was-
It
great-
still
Yeah.
is. It stands up today as a
Yes.
great movie.
Who
Well,
are
it's
the
the
other two in it?
25th anniversary, and I guess they're showing it in movie theaters.
Yes.
Oh, let's go
so
see it.
We'll just
Okay.
say a little bit, but about it.
No, tell me the whole thing. I want to.
No.
We don't want to give any spoilers
But-
because it is absolutely worth seeing.
But Martin Sheen's son, I think it's Emilio Estevez.
Mhm.
He starts doing the trail, and he gets caught in a snowstorm and dies in the Pyrenees. So his father comes over and basically learns a lot about himself. So it's well worth watching. So apparently after that movie, the number of people wanting to do this track has rocketed. So
Mhm.
something like 200,000 people a year do it.
Really?
And it is
Interesting.
the most organized trail because you can stay, as I say, at refuges or these kind of
Are there any nicer hotels for me?
Sorry?
Is there a nicer
Oh
hotel for me?
yeah, there's
Are there?
fancy places.
Okay.
You know, but so that's the thing. You can do this is very fancy. Have a portage service.
Have a
Take your
glass of
bag,
wine at
have a
night.
Well, I
glass
mean, if
of
it's like a
wine.
religious pilgrimage, part of that is supposed to be about modesty. So
Yes.
staying in a fancy place would be like literally.
Well, that would
Against
be
what the
that
whole
would
point
be
of it is.
if your mom was doing a religious trip,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not what I'm thinking that she's going for.
No, no,
And I think there's a
exactly.
difference between religious and spiritual, right? For
Yes.
me, it would be
Yes.
more spiritual
Yes.
in that having time for myself, enjoying the local foods, local wines, local beers, you know, that kind of thing. That would be more for me. So, I mean,
you walk it
and
up
there's
all
a
day.
fine
Well, she
line.
claims to be super religious. So that's what
I'm
I
not
was saying.
religious.
Oh.
Well,
I'm just
You
thick
go
with
to
God.
church though.
Yeah,
No,
I don't know.
I
I think
talk to God
there's
every time.
I think there's a
Every day.
difference between religious and spiritual.
But let me say what I do.
No.
What what I do is I talk to God. I go on my trail, and I go to Prayer Rock, which I call Prayer Rock.
Mhm.
And you can ask Richard Betts because he sits there and watches me. He's quiet because sometimes he tries to do this. He does a little. He calls it Gaia. He calls it Gaia. You know, Earth. And he does a little water dance and he sings it while I'm trying to do my prayers. And I'm like, wait, you got to be quiet. Do that silently as I do my silent prayers. And then he'll be quiet.
Yeah.
And let me have my, peace. And I probably pray for at least 15 minutes. I do that, every time I hike and every time I'm at a red light. And I also go to church.
Yeah.
And I just, I always think about people in
Do
a
the
good
people
way.
behind you get mad since you're there meditating for 15 minutes in their life?
So you could easily do one of these walks. You'd
Okay.
find a good reason
Oh yeah,
to
she
do
would
that.
be.
Okay.
It'd be hard to keep up with Kinga. Let's be
Well,
honest.
that's true. That's true.
you and Sherry would be way out in front.
Let's do it. Maybe we'll do
you
that.
could definitely talk her into that.
500 miles though, that must take like a month or something.
Apparently people do it in about a month.
Okay.
I had some friends who did it, and they stayed at these places, had the communal meal, and they loved meeting all the different people. So one of the things, when I said to them, well, what did you get out of it? This was before I'd even done any of these. And they said they got a couple of things out of it, and I reflected on that myself. But, one of the things is, to do one of these things, you just literally have to put one foot after the other. But you just have to do it, every minute.
Thousands of times.
And you'll get there.
Right.
You can't think about, oh God, this is impossible. I'm never going to be able to walk 500 miles. You just got to sign yourself up, get going, and just repeat it, thousands of times.
But why? But why?
So they said that that's one of the things they weren't completely sure they could do it. But they said that's, after a while we realized, this is not impossible. Ordinary people can do this. You don't have to be a jock. You just have to be persistent and put one foot after the other. They said the other thing that they learned out of it was that everybody has a reason. And they're all over the place in terms of what those reasons are.
Oh, tell the reason you met that girl.
Yeah.
Tell
yeah.
that.
So I'll tell you a couple of things that I came across when I was doing it. So it was actually on Hadrian's Wall my second day, and
This is cool.
it was her second last day because we walked in opposite directions.
Okay.
I went with the wind because I'd read a blog that you probably want to go from, essentially the west to the east. You'd be going with the wind, and that really paid off. But she was going against the wind. And she was kind of stopped, and I said, so how are you? Okay. She looked like she was limping a little bit.
Oh.
And she said, okay. She said, I had some foot problems, so I did have to take the bus yesterday, a bit of the way. So I said, well, that's not a problem. You And so I did say, so why are you doing this?
Yeah, with a hurt foot, why would you do it?
Well, yes. So why did you start doing the thing? And she said, I needed to reset my life. And I thought a walk would enable me to kind of think about, what it is I want to do from now on. And so I've had, this is a 6-day trip, and I'm basically into the 5th day here. And it's given me a chance to kind of really think about, what do I want to do now? She didn't tell me what that problem was.
Right.
What was the issue? I didn't inquire. But
I thought you ended up telling you.
well, that's
Okay,
a
okay,
different
okay.
a different thing.
Okay.
But so she said, so, I wanted to be on my own. She would have been in her 20s.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't. I said, "Were you concerned about safety?" She said, "Not out here. This is wonderful, and people are so helpful and friendly." And she said, "So that," I said, "and does it work? Do you think it's working?" She said, "Oh yes, I feel very comforted that I've got past what the issue was, and I'm kind of working on what am I going to do from now on." So
I love that.
there's a kind of a reset, and I heard that story, a couple of other times, and they didn't always say what it was, but it could be there's been an illness in the family, I got divorced, or I had a breakup, or whatever. But there were those kind of things.
But tell them one pivotal one.
The one. Now, this wasn't actually while I was hiking the wall. I was actually, I stayed on to do some hikes in Scotland, and I was doing Ben Lomond, and it's near Loch Lomond. So so I hiked up.
Well, where are those two?
It's in the kind of north west part of Scotland. You drive up.
It's picturesque, like things that from
beautiful.
the Highlander, like
Yes. So
like,
when you're up there, you get to look down on Loch, which is Lake Lomond, and it's kind of windy and up at the top. So pretty chilly, and there were loads of people doing it, and it's very interesting hiking and walking in England because people of all ages do it. I mean, there were people in their 60s, 80s. There were young people. And on this particular hike, even though I'm rugged up as much as I can, there are guys in shorts and t-shirts and, all of these.
What's the temperature?
Oh, it's 35, 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Those Scots.
They're tough.
Yeah,
They're
they're
Wow.
tough. Yeah,
In
those
shorts?
like the people from Finland and Norway.
Yes.
They deal with cold
Yeah.
a lot different than we do here in Arizona.
We're so fortunate here.
This is probably a warm day for them.
Oh yeah, 35.
We
That's
can't
pretty.
complain here.
You guys are a bunch of Ponzes.
I've heard like rumors about people in cold weather doing stuff like that, and I always thought it was urban legend. When I was up in northern Michigan like a few winters ago, I saw a guy literally swimming in the river, like there was chunks of ice floating
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
and it wasn't like swimming for his life. Like he was swimming for fun.
Yes.
It was wild.
Wow.
Yeah. Like
That's
so.
crazy.
That idea of a cold plunge for longevity
Yes.
is taken off.
Wim Hof
Wim Hof
is
method.
the guy
Yes.
that made that all
Wim Hof.
happen.
Yes. So anyway, on my way down, I saw this young lady, and she didn't really look like much of a hiker. She was a little.
This is
heavy.
special.
Mhm.
Oh, and this is a good story.
And so
you can find it.
I stopped. So I said, "How you doing?" And she said, "Oh, I'm struggling." And I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "So, why are you doing this if this is not something you really enjoy?" She said, "Oh no, I don't like really hiking. This is kind of my first peak." So she said,
My first peek in a
First,
film.
yes. So I said, "Oh, okay." So she said, and why are you doing this?" She said, "Well, in my backpack, I have my dad's ashes." And I said, "Oh, can I ask, why?" And she said, "Well, my dad promised that when he retired, he would like to hike some peaks in Scotland with his daughters, my sister and I. And sadly, he died 3 days before he got to 65
Oh.
at his retirement age.
This always makes me cry.
And,
You told me this a few
and
times.
so she said, I decided that what I would do is take the ashes up to Ben Lomond and do the hike that he couldn't do, and spread the ashes. And so I thought, well, that's powerful. And what I got out of that, everyone can kind of think about it, but it's that general idea, you often push things off. You're so busy, you don't have time to do it, and
Right.
all that sort of stuff. And
Make priorities out of nonsense.
yeah, that
sometimes.
guy was probably, not thinking about, why wait to 65? Why not,
Why
get-
not
Don't
do it
wait to
now.
live your life.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Get
yeah.
going and do it now.
Do it now. Do it now.
And
Enjoy
so
your life now.
I found that really powerful.
That's so powerful.
That's I think one of the takeaways you get is that
I've got
know.
tears coming down.
You know, and so honestly, if I'd had any gas left, I probably would have gone back up the mountain with her. But I was
done.
I was pretty done. And there were a lot of other people in shorts and
Right.
short sleeve shirts doing the hike. So that really, you know, between, you know, the
That's
various
special.
people that were doing these different trails, and you know, why were they doing it?
I think that'd be a great core message for this episode, though. Like, don't wait to live your life, because
Yes.
there's so many people that do that. And
Yes.
they say, "Oh, I'm going to do this once I retire,
Yes.
once I make this money, or once I do this,"
Exactly.
and then they don't get that opportunity.
Yes, exactly. That'd be, I think, you know, one of the things that you get to do on a walk, and you get to think about, you know, what is important to me. You've got thinking time on these walks. So
Well, another point is a lot of people will like put off, okay, I'm going to go on this trip in August, or 6 months away from now or something, and between now and then I'm just going to save up and do nothing. There are ways to have a ton of fun that are free,
Yes.
like hiking, like
Yes.
walking,
yes,
and being with your family and doing something like that. That doesn't cost anything, and that can be tons of fun.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And
So-
you know, people have said, well, why don't you do that in this country? Well, most of the walks here, like the famous one is the Appalachian Trail. These are all walks where you really are backpacking.
Right.
You're not going to be going to a town and staying in a hotel overnight. And I've chosen to do these, not the complete backpacking things. You know, maybe if I was younger, I'd do that. But so there's a movie, I forget, was it Reese Witherspoon who was in that one, the Pacific Crest Trail?
Yes. That
She-
was great.
Yes,
I don't
she's not a
remember that.
hiker, but she walks all the way up from, I guess, the Mexican border all the way
Right.
up to the Canadian border. So, but that's a full-on experience. You're
Right.
camping.
Well, and then you've got South America. You can go from the tip of Peru all
Yes.
the way up to the tip of Baja California, and it's a completely different experience than either one of them.
Yes,
So it's
exactly. I actually saw a little article in the newspaper the other day about a guy. He's I think 32, and he's been walking for 7 years. He's done over
that's a little
25,000
crazy.
miles.
That's a little
That's like
crazy.
Forrest
Forrest
Gump
Gump.
style.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Next you just get a shrimp
living on the
boat.
kindness of strangers, kind of just
Yeah, I think
wandering.
yes, I think he sometimes took a job,
Sure.
sort of doing basic kind of things, and kind of had enough money to sort of, and he apparently.
How do you know about this?
It was an article in the newspaper.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I think he didn't have much confidence. He was always apparently afraid of things. So he said, I've got to do this. So I'm just going to get going. And he described how he felt, nothing terrified him anymore.
I bet.
He was not scared one little bit about anything. And he described a few incidences where he'd been robbed and beaten up and some horrific things. But he said,
While he's
I
on the
can
trail?
I'm still there.
I came through this.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, bothers me, at all now. So his reason might have been,
Chet, don't do that.
I'm lacking confidence. I haven't done much, so let's do the full Monty.
Well, but how do we know that he's been walking that 7 years?
So he's not running away from his problem.
Yeah, and how do we know? Have we checked the crime rate of maybe there's been some serial killing on that route?
I chose
you
to
watch
think.
way too much
Yes,
television. You and Sherry both love those crime dramas, and man,
Well, one thing that is important to touch on this is how beneficial it is for your health too. Like
Yes.
our bodies are designed to walk
Yes.
several miles every single day.
Exactly.
A lot of people just spend all day sitting for their work or in bad posture if they're not sitting. So
Well,
walks
and-
are a really great reset, not only for your mental health but also for your physical health.
Well, I don't know what we're supposed to call them. But the people that lived here before we did.
nomads. We're nomads. They
Well,
walked all the
They
time.
used to be called Native Americans, but I don't know what the right word to say is. What's the word to say?
I think that's it.
I think that's
think
it.
that's
Native Americans.
So they used to be thin and fit, and
Yes.
according to the movies I've seen, and
Right.
You should probably get your information from more places than just the movies.
But I
Isn't that a wild concept?
For
Like
thousands
newspapers.
and
Wow.
thousands of years, these pilgrimages, these treks,
Yes.
we've been nomads. I mean, our bodies are designed to walk. We heal while we're walking. fasting when you walk.
Yeah, they
all of
fast, and
those
then
things.
they have
yes.
one meal.
Mhm.
So is that kind of what did you do for your food on these long trails?
Oh yeah. Did
Well,
you bring stuff with you? Did you just eat?
Well, I
Did you always
carried
have a meal?
some snacks. I had a kind of a pack. I had a change of clothes and
How many changes of
well,
clothes?
one.
One change of clothes.
Yeah.
Like several
I
pairs
had
of socks
I had a second shirt is what I had.
and one pair of shoes.
I did bring boots.
Okay.
But I ended up walking in my trail shoes.
Okay.
And there's
Why only one outfit?
because I was planning on washing my shirt every night, and that's what I did. First
Okay.
thing I'd do is get in, I'd wash my shirt. I had the backup one in case I couldn't dry it, something like that. So,
Right.
so really bare bones, kind of provisions.
Thank
One extra pair of underpants, one shirt.
So you're not there to
no, it's not
impress anybody.
luxurious.
It's only to just do your thing.
And so did you bring like trail meals, or did you just bring snacks like energy bars, things like that?
Yeah, I brought nuts and dried fruits. And,
Okay.
not trail bars.
Apricots, you said.
I ate dried apricots and those kind of things. And it turned out that the way of St. Francis takes you through these kind of mountain fortress towns. Really small, walled cities. Beautiful, but they're pretty small. So. On 2 consecutive nights, the restaurants weren't open because I was early in the season.
Right.
So I literally didn't have a meal for 2 nights. But it turns out, again, this is
Were
intermittent
you really
fasting.
upset about it?
Oh yeah.
And I had my snacks.
But at first, were you upset? Were you like, I
No,
can't do this?
I thought, okay, well, I'm going to lose a little weight.
Yeah.
And
you go.
I've got snacks. I'm not literally going to starve, and I've got water. And maybe the next town, the restaurants will be sort of open. So,
And the phone
it
doesn't
was-
work to get Uber Eats?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would go
This
crazy that dude.
yeah, definitely no Uber in this place.
But you said your phone did work.
Oh yeah, no, I
Somehow.
got an Italian SIM card because I knew that I was going to be following a track on my phone. I had to have reliable,
Right.
cell service. I could get completely lost. So I had that, and so I always knew how to get from the town back to the trail. I wasn't too far off in the town. So pretty minimal. Again,
Typically, though, when you've done these amazing trails and hikes, you've done it with your son.
well,
And that's important to let
actually, I
people know
did meet up with my son for the
See,
last
they're always,
3 days on this 12-day hike.
and your wife doesn't, she's not
So
into
the
it.
12 days is the
Well-
longest you've gone.
The longest I've gone.
And how many
Big-
miles?
Oh, sorry.
This was 160 miles.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
So that was from Assisi,
Cheers.
all the way down to Rome.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm, stopping in towns at night
Right.
and hopefully having a meal and getting water and all that kind
Well,
of stuff.
I could do all this, but I'd have to have a meal, a really good meal, and wine.
So were like the
and with
locals
somebody that's fine.
friendly? Were you able to hang out with people, or did you kind of keep to yourself, or a little bit of both?
Well, I actually, I did learn a little Italian. I used a little app called Coffee Break Italian to at least get a few basic words.
All right.
And
That was smart.
So I used that where I could. And,
So I'm not saying what trail I do because I don't want any stalkers, but I do run into Graeme at least a few times a week. He does the same trail I do, and Richard does the same trail, and like I know about 80% of the people on the trail. So he laughs at me because if he's next to me, I'm like walking, and I'll
Most
talk
of
to
them
the
have
next
probably been
person.
on the show.
Yeah.
That's how she gets people for the show.
Absolutely.
So the reason I'm bringing that up is you are always listening to a podcast. He's always learning as he's hiking. And he has this backpack it has the dried fruits and nuts and water.
Yeah,
and
no,
All right,
I-
so you do a podcast when you're here. Do you do that kind of thing when you're on the long
No.
hikes? Ah, okay.
I did not.
That's a good question.
I
Good
did not
question.
do that. Now, when I'm locally, as I say, I was learning some Italian.
He's always
I'm
learning.
about other kind
Sure.
of things. But on the trail, both trails, I said no. I want to be present.
Oh wow.
I want to be experiencing. I
Interesting.
don't want to be tuning it out.
Right.
I don't want to be listening to something. So I just want to shut the device is only
Interesting.
so I can make sure I'm on the trail
Sure.
and I can get to the next place. That's it. And I never pulled the phone out other than that. Didn't want to listen.
Didn't touch
to
your wife every hour?
No. She'd have been worried if I'd done that.
Right,
It'd be
right.
so unusual. Is there something wrong? Are you okay?
Right.
So
Jen has a question, I think.
Oh, I was just gonna say a big advantage of doing it with someone is a safety issue or safety.
Yeah.
It's way safer if you have a witness. If there's anybody that most of those trails are really safe, but just like any other form of travel, there are points of vulnerability. So,
and that is a really good point. And
that is a great point.
And it is because, if you know yourself, I tend to be one of these persons that worries about things that could go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to be.
You don't seem that way.
I am.
he crunches the numbers, you can tell.
Yeah. I tend to be, okay, what happens if this happens?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I got out of this walk is if I was going to be thinking about that all the time, I would not get anything out of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to mentally learn to tune the worries out.
Oh, that's
In other
good.
words, kind of be there.
So that's what you got out of it.
That's one of the things.
Tuning the worries out.
I resisted my natural, temptation to be thinking, what happens, as you say, what happens if I fall down and break a leg?
What happens if this?
What happens if that?
Blah, blah, blah.
Now,
luckily, I don't do that. Now I have a
before
family
you
member
do a
that does
walk
that.
like this, you do have to think about a few of the things
Sure.
to sort of mitigate the risk. But once you're on the trail, you've done everything you can.
What if there's a rattlesnake?
Well, in Italy, that'd be a rarity.
That would
Yeah.
be
What if Mount Vesuvius explodes?
You're shot. That's it. I'm not going to be able to stop Mount Vesuvius. So, just
Pompeii.
Yeah, that's just destiny and fate you're talking right
But what
there.
you're talking about is massive, though, because so many people nowadays, before they would even attempt to try to mitigate that worry, they just go and medicate it. They just go, oh,
Yes.
give me some Xanax. I don't want to feel this.
Yes.
But really, a lot of anxiety you can push through with some mental toughness and exercise. It's a mental exercise, really.
I think that's really
That's a
important.
good point.
Well, and I
That's a
think
great point.
a lot of it is attached to kind of like pushing through with physical activities, whether it's lifting weights, hiking, walking, because that's teaching you mental toughness and being like, oh, like there might be some obstacles, but I need to force my way through this. I think it's something people should try to start doing more.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And to there are times you're walking and you think, God, I'm pooped.
Right.
I don't have the gas to keep going.
But no, you're not.
Oh, but I was going from that point saying that it would be safer to do it with somebody because it sounds really fun to do one of these like kind of walks or journeys, but one that I just find like on a coast somewhere, kind of like the one you were saying that happened on the West Coast from like
Yeah, Portugal. Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to divulge what organization is starting this walk because I'm going to go. because of stalkers. But
Yes.
They're going to do
don't say where
this organization.
don't say who's doing it or
Okay.
when, but
Okay.
tell
They
is that
do
right?
Word, be very vague.
Yeah.
going somewhere sometime.
They do the Portuguese Camino, which is from Porto
Okay.
along the coast.
You
Actually,
can
they're
go-
doing two
go on.
routes along the coast and then an inland version of it, two separate dates. And it goes to Santiago Compostela. And I think it's less than 100 miles. It's not the full coming in through France. So now what are you getting? Well, you've got to get yourself to Porto.
Okay, we can do that.
They will provide 7 nights at a hotel, 7 dinners,
Good food. Okay,
and 7 breakfasts.
I'm in.
And they'll move your bags between hotel to hotel.
That's so
So
much.
this is,
That's
if you like the full
pretty
Monty,
deluxe.
if you want to,
Yeah.
and you're going to
And
be
it's only
like-
$1,400.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what the full Monty is, see the movie. It's awesome.
So it's it's going to be you're going to be hiking with other people, and I bet people.
How many
on the-
people would you guess go on this?
Oh, I think
The one I'm
probably
gonna go.
20. Probably 20 people.
That's it?
Yeah. Well, that's a, I'm sure they put some limitations on it because you've got to get a,
So you really get to know these 20 people.
You're going to
That's
be walking
cool.
every day.
So
Yeah,
we
you're
better
gonna
be
be
nice.
with them. Yeah.
Is there a way to
The whole time.
preview these 20 people?
Go to the meetings. That's
Go
what
to
Graeme
they
says.
usually have an organizational meeting. It's helpful to do that.
Go to the meeting and see if you like it.
All right, let's go.
So,
Let's
in
go.
other words, you can do full on camping if you want to. You can go alone, all the way up to, you know, go with, you know, a group. They'll move your bag. You'll get, you know, full meals, dinners and stuff like that. You know, and in between would be you and a mate get together and just, you know, do it together.
I love it.
You just, the main thing is just do something.
Can I say, like, this particular trip we're talking about from Porto, I think that if somebody's like contemplating or thinking about getting engaged, you know, I really love this person. If you do something like that, where there's no other distractions, you're spending 10 miles a day walking, you're really, really deciding, how does this person travel?
Well, absolutely. Before you get married, before you commit to a deep relationship, you definitely have to travel with a person.
But
extreme
like this,
travel,
yeah,
right?
like
To see really
Yeah.
how they deal with those kind of situations, because anything could happen. You've got to be able to release your worries.
Yes.
You have to be in the moment, and to find a travel partner like that can be.
Yes.
Can be
Well,
challenging.
because I mean, not that these relationships with, you know, like romantic relationships, but I've gone on some trips before. I'm not saying any names, but like this one, you know, right after a few years after my divorce, a couple of years after my divorce, a friend asked me to go on a where was not Aspen Telluride trip.
Does his name rhyme with yawn?
This
No,
is a
I'm just
girl.
kidding.
It's a girl. It rhymes with cargo.
Sure it is.
It rhymes with cargo. I'm not gonna say
Okay.
her name. And she
Pretty easy to rule it out.
Could be Bargo, it could be Targo. There's lots of names it could be.
Well, anyway,
Chet.
so I went on this trip with her, and it was a hiking. Every day, everybody was going on a hike.
Yes.
We went to Telluride, and it was a really, she, you know, included me in this. It might have been with the same organization you're talking about. It wasn't expensive, and you know, there's maybe like 30 people going. It was so much fun, but I had to like divorce her on that trip because she would be like, "Oh, I don't want the sun on me."
Your friend Zargo. Every other name sounds like an alien name that you can make with that rhymes with that.
Yes, it's Zargo.
Zargo from the planet Mercury.
So she was so difficult on this trip. And what, you know, imagine if that was like somebody you're going to marry. Like, you know, we always got along so well, but on this trip I was like,
then you know.
wow,
Yeah.
I was so annoyed
Yes.
because we, like, here we're going on this trail, and like she'd go up a few little feet and she'd go, I can't have the sun, oh, it's too far on this, oh, the bug, oh my God, oh, all these things were bugging her, and we had to turn around because I was there on that trip with her. And she invited me, and so I'm like, okay.
Well, you learned a lot there.
I learned a lot.
Yes.
Oh yeah, because you've never been difficult in your
No,
life.
no.
No.
And I love her, but she's not one.
Thanks
to
for
go
bringing that up,
with.
Chad.
Yeah.
That's really
She's
good
not,
to know.
no,
She's
no.
never been that.
People that really know me, I'm resilient. I can sit in a rainstorm.
You're the first person that would be like, we can't go on this hike. I don't have my sunblock or something.
Oh
like
no,
that.
that'd be you. No. Ask Richard Betts. You know me. I hike rain or shine, hot or cold, you know, bugs, snakes, you know, we're risking it all when we're out there. I mean, we see rattlesnakes. Yeah, I do all that. But, you know, I can sit at a Grand Prix race in the rain or at an ASU game in the rain. No, so it depends who I'm with. If I'm with somebody fun, I'll do anything.
All right, but if you're with somebody who's whining and complaining, then it just gets
Slap.
tedious. Yeah.
Get out of my face.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
No.
sure.
So yeah, that's the difficulty of doing a walk with people you don't know. I mean, you might discover things you really don't want to know about.
Well, that's why, you know, if you're looking, oh, I want to commit in this relationship and go to the next level, you know, maybe do some kind of a trail walk like this, like a 6-day thing, to find out, am I compatible?
We talked about this at lunch, but tell our listeners why you did it. Because you've given us a little bit of background of, you know, you've asked some other people. What was your motivation, and what does your wife think about all this?
Well,
and are you happily married?
I'm very happily married. Have been for over 30 years.
I love it.
So we do things, we like things, different things. This wouldn't be her cup of tea at all. She might do that organized walk along the Camino Trail.
The one I'm going to do.
You know, where they take your bag and all that stuff.
Right.
I think
you could talk her into that.
I could talk her
in
into
2050 for the listeners.
So we'd have to train her up a little bit.
Yeah, she'd have to get ready, but
you know, all that. But she'd be willing to give that a try. So why did I do it? Well,
yes. Graeme, why?
I like. At the first trip, I thought was mostly the physical challenge. But this one I found.
But
it
you could
was-
have the physical challenge right here. You could just do physical
Walk to
challenge. Grand
Flagstaff.
Canyon.
Yeah.
Do Grand Canyon 3 times.
But this one I
Watch a Flagstaff.
This one I did focus on the mental and that tendency for me personally to worry about everything. And so I felt like I was training my mind to just be there and enjoy it and stop the mind wandering off on the 1,000 things that could go wrong. So
So
it
don't
became
be
a lot
worrywart.
easier. It became a lot easier after I got going on it.
Right.
The first day, and it was a rough day because it was I had hail and rain, etc., etc.
Oh, I'm out if there's hail and rain.
Yeah. So, but then I thought, hold it, I've
Just kidding.
done everything I can, and so that was a big factor for me. And of course, you get
That's
to be
huge.
in nature. And then you've got the time to kind of notice it. And basically, this walk goes along the foothills of the Apennine Mountains in Italy. And when I get up a bit higher, I could see the snow-capped 12,000-foot peaks, and they were just completely covered in snow. So, bit of wildlife. The nature part was fabulous. The thinking, and again the mind control. That
The mind control, that's a huge thing.
So,
And
yeah.
how do you do that? How do you mind control your mind?
I'm hardly an expert on this, but
Martin's an expert.
I had to when I'd start to think about what could go wrong, then I'd have to say, come on, focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
And look at the different things around you. Look at these different towns and the castles and all that kind of stuff. And so it was literally changing the topic. And
Well, I
so this would
understand
be
that.
like you can think positive thoughts, and every time your mind goes onto the negative thoughts, which is what could go wrong, channel it back to the positive.
Well,
I
for
never-
example, in this very obscure neighborhood that I don't want to mention where it is, there's a javelina. There's a lot of javelina right now, and that person has been sighted seeing javelina that's like aggressively coming after them. And I thought, I'm going to stop walking at night, in this area. But then I'm like, no. The other day I was like, no, I'm going to bring a pepper spray with me.
Yes.
I'm going to bring a big, this light rake to, if someone's attacking me or whatever, javelina. And, and it's mind control.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, and my daughter and her boyfriend, and there were about 5 of us going on a walk. And I'm like, I'm not scared. I was like, Evelina, where are you? Where are you? I was making it a fun thing. Come after me. Come after me.
Yeah, focus
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
good things.
Yeah.
My grandmother
You
was
think javelina is an actual threat?
Well,
Yeah,
they're pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
But
I
my
don't think I've
grandmother-
seen any fatal javelina attacks recently. Like, there's way more. You should be more scared of getting hit by a car.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I think the other part was that I benefited from was, as I say, my son joined me for the last 3 days, and we've spent our life kind of since he was a young boy sort of doing not long distance walks but hiking the highest peaks in countries all around the world.
You got to tell how that got started, what he said to you.
Well, he was about 12, and we were in the Czech Republic where I was doing some programs, and he said, Dad, we ought to see if we can hike the high point of every country we visit. So I said, okay, we're in the Czech Republic. Why don't you do a bit of research on the high peak here, and I'll rent the car and we'll drive up there and do it. So that carried on a trend. We did Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, all of these different kind of places, Montenegro. And so the last part, so those were always great experiences, but a treat for me was catching up with him for the 3 days we walked it together. And
almost every trip he meets up with him. And we forgot to mention that your son lives in Prague.
Yes.
And that's a lot of times why he's not doing it here, because he's going there to meet his son.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
that was,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, spending-
anytime you get a chance to do
Yeah,
something
to spend
with your
3
children,
solid days. That's as
Yeah.
an adult. Yeah, that's a
With your
big deal.
with
It's
your
a really
children,
big deal.
no matter what age. And I was even shocked when my son said, Dad, maybe next year we'll think about something. I could do maybe 6 days,
Aw.
taking off work.
Yeah.
I was shocked,
Aw.
So that's enough, so this goes back to, do you do it alone or do you do it with someone
always meeting
that's
up with the sun.
meaningful.
He's meeting up with the sun, and whatever days his son can come up
Yeah,
with or
yeah.
get out of
I
work.
totally
yes.
understand that.
So-
Yeah, I think they're going solo. Definitely, there's pros to that too, as far as like the going on a spiritual journey mentally and stuff like that. It would be more of a meditative experience if you're by yourself, but just the logistical aspects of, if you twist your ankle or anything like that, or, just safety in general, it's better to be with a group. But I'm definitely inspired to like plan some kind of like a cool journey, like walk trip like this. I think somewhere in the U.S., but I'm gonna like find like a set of towns that are all close to each other.
Have you ever seen the movie The Way with Martin Sheen?
I have not. No.
I know you will like it. It was
Yes.
like it's 25 years old, but it's one of those timeless movies. I mean, it could have been made in the 50s.
Yes.
Is it a love story?
Not really.
Well,
Is there some
It's a
love in it?
relationship between a father and a son.
Oh.
It's more about life in general, probably.
Well,
yeah.
I think it's all the things. I think
Yeah.
it is a love story between a father and a son. I think it's a love story of a man getting to love himself, getting
Yes.
to understand
Yes.
himself. He was this super busy father who was, very self-important and had a lot of things going on, and maybe didn't stop and smell the roses.
Yes.
And then when his son died, his whole world came crumbling down, and he
The
used.
sun dies? I don't want to see it. That's sad.
Oh.
You don't see that.
No.
there.
That's at the beginning of the movie. That's like the first thing that happens. So I'm not ruining it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the first thing.
But it's good for me to know that. Otherwise, I'd be like, man,
But
I
that part's-
he didn't tell me the sun dies.
No. I would never watch a movie where the son dies at the end. Would not.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, okay, yeah, I get it. It's motivation for him, and he really and Martin Sheen just does an amazing acting job of kind of going from this kind of a jerk to this. Really, he goes through an amazing transformation, and at the end, you're just like, "Oh, I'm not crying, you're crying."
So he didn't spend time with his son, and he regretted it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
The dichotomy, if that's what it was actually like in real
Wow.
life, because Charlie Sheen seems like he
Yes.
Well, no,
didn't
it
have a
was,
lot of parental attention.
right. Well, and Emilio Estevez as well. I think Emilio Estevez was the actor who played the son, which is obviously his son, and so
Is that his son?
Emilio Estevez
Yeah.
and Charlie Sheen are Martin Sheen's son. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they've had their moments. They've had their disagreements, but they've also. From what I understand, this was a really transformative movie for Martin Sheen as well, because he had to walk a lot during this, and there was a lot of time for him to reflect on his own relationship with his son, and so it was a very moving thing, not just from a theatrical experience, but the actors going through something as well.
I have a friend that has a house next door to Martin Sheen. So
Well,
we need
why
to get
hasn't
them
he
on
been on
the
the
show.
show yet?
We can
Jeez,
get them on
get
the
on
show.
it, Kinga.
Yes.
Well, so it's so interesting how everybody can go on this path for so many different reasons, but all are good, right?
Yes, exactly. You find your own reason.
Right.
Thank you.
So have you ever met a jerk on the road?
That's a good question.
Because you've said that you've just met so many lovely people. I'm just
Yes.
wondering if you ever found.
Honestly, I haven't. No, not really.
And I think the
But
reason I asked that
Graham's too
because
sweet. Like Graham would
well,
never.
I've really never
Graham's
met
too nice.
two. I can't even think of the last jerk that I met just
Well,
going out on a hike.
what
Like,
I would
they're
have to
just
say is that
nice
jerks
people.
are everywhere. So
They
you
are.
always have to have your head on a swivel, no matter where
You're
are.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
However,
Uh-huh.
what we were talking about at lunch is that the people who go on these long walks,
Oh, that's right.
they're going for a reason.
Yeah.
It's usually an eternal thing, and even if they've been through a horrific thing or a tough thing,
Yeah, they
they're
wanna
going there to
change.
heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a commonality there for this specific
Of love
thing.
and kindness.
And so I think
That's what
probably
you said earlier.
there's a lot more love and kindness, and I think I've read about it. Like since we watched The Way,
Yes.
my wife and we've researched quite a bit.
Can I come over with you and Sherry and watch it this weekend?
Yeah, let's do
Okay,
it.
let's do it.
Because I don't think we're gonna. Sherry was in India for 30 days. She does not want to leave the house. She is like so happy just to be at home.
And I want to see her. Yeah. Okay. So we'll
Yeah,
come
so we
over.
might have to come over.
I'll
to
bring
watch
some
The
wine.
Way.
She'll bring
There
the
we go.
tissues.
There we go.
I'll bring the
There we go.
tissues and the
Between
wine.
But
Graham, you and your wife are invited.
But the
Chet
people who
and
are
Owen.
going to and
Dominic.
doing these events or these things are going with intention.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And people with intention are different than just your everyday human being that you run across.
And also, somebody that's going on this, walk of life, they are also not lazy, because for you to plan this, travel there, take the time to take your backpack, and create, all the stuff you have to do, and do that walking every day, and get up, and you're not lazy.
Yes.
You're really
well, especially in the group ones. I mean, if you're really a nasty fella, people are going to ostracise you, and you'll probably pull off. So, or the conveners detect that, and
well, I'm confused what you
well,
mean.
I mean, before the walk gets going, somebody might say to somebody, you seem like a difficult guy. I don't know, is this really for you?
Is this really yours? Yeah.
Well, that's what I felt when I was doing that with Zargo. Because we would show up at the dinners, but we ditched everybody at the hikes. Yeah. So I thought they were like, "Oh my gosh, King is so difficult."
that crazy Zargo.
I mean, they're like, "Oh, they did a few steps and they turned around. It made me look bad." Yes. Oh my gosh.
All right, so we just have a few more minutes. So, Graeme, what's on the future for you? What are you looking forward to?
Yes. What's the next one?
What's the next one?
I'm actually doing a little research. I don't know yet.
Okay.
I've thought about the Camino Santiago.
Yeah.
I'm a little off-put by the fact that lots of people do it.
Right.
So that's.
You mean the one in Porto?
No. The one that comes from France all the way, the full
Camino, right?
I was about to say, that's why I'm like really interested in trying to do my own route, because I think it'd be really fun to basically do a totally custom trail, like where I'm staying at all hotels that I find. I'd basically have to do it out of a backpack.
Yeah.
But I'm really good at traveling light, packing light, so I think I could love that.
Exactly. You could put your own together.
You'd have to have 4 people with you.
So Europe is, you're looking at Europe right now.
Yes, I'm actually looking, one other one that I'm looking at is called the Lycian Way.
It's Lycian Way.
It's on the Turkish coast.
Ooh.
Cool.
You could, it's 460 miles. You wouldn't have to do the whole thing. And it goes past, Greek ruins on the Turkish coast.
Gosh, that sounds beautiful.
So that's a possibility.
Wow.
There's, if you just do a Google search,
well, that one sounds very interesting.
Google search for long distance trails,
right?
You'll come up with loads of them.
But then hold on, if there's an organized group, how do you find? Is there like the 5-star version of that?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure we'll find it.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about you.
Actually,
if you put your mind to it, you will find the deluxe, where you can probably find a team that will carry you half the way.
There are companies that organize these, so you'll hit on those websites and they'll give you a price and
you'll meet somebody next week at one.
So
of your
how do we make the
restaurants.
money so we can sustain this, Grant?
Well,
bonds, stocks, not gold yet.
Yeah, not gold yet. But the main thing I think is...
What about watches? I've heard watches can be something to invest in, like Rolexes.
Yeah, I probably don't get much into that.
What about property?
Yeah,
land?
Property's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay,
But again,
I know
I
you
think,
invest in property.
well, yes, a little bit, but...
Come on, I know about it.
But I have a sort of a minimalist view of life, so I don't spend my time thinking now about how to make more money.
Okay.
I spend my time thinking about, some of these kind of things.
How to create joy and spread joy.
Actually, and I'll just say one thing. When I was retired, a colleague of mine said, you left a lot of money on the table. You could have, continued working and basically until you were dribbling. And I said, what you forget is that
health is wealth.
That my scarcest resource is time.
And don't wait to live your life. That's what we said earlier.
Try to live your life. That's
I
wealth.
said, no, I made the right decision.
You did.
I wouldn't undo it.
How many hours a day do you hike when you're in town?
Oh, maybe 2 hours in the morning.
That's a lot.
Well,
2 hours a day.
2
hours a day.
That's a good amount.
Yep.
So it's so again, I think this is something that everybody can do, no matter what your age group, whether you want to do it, the full catering or primitive, do it alone, do it with other people.
And live your life now.
Just think about doing something like that.
Saving the planet.
You'll learn
One
about
show at a time.